After dominating reality TV shows for more than a decade, Pawn Stars has now taken a negative turn. Rick Harrison, who is 59 years old, attests that his son's life sentence is accurate and discloses the cause and circumstances of his passing. However, this is not the only Pawn Stars cast member embroiled in scandalous situations. Join us as we explore the controversies that threaten to destroy the legacy of this once beloved series, from Rick Harrison's sensational court battles with his mother to Chumlee's run-ins with the law. After its 2009 debut on the History Channel, the reality TV program Pawn Stars became very famous. The program chronicles the day-to-day activities of the Las Vegas gold and silver pawn store. The success of the show made the store and its proprietors well known throughout the world. When Brent Montgomery and Colby Gaines of Left Field Pictures traveled to Las Vegas in 2008, the concept for the performance was born. They developed a show based on a family-run pawn store after noticing the abundance of pawn shops in the city. As a result, Richard Oldman Harrison, his son Rick Harrison, and Rick's son Corey Byghaus Harrison opened the gold and silver pawn shop. Together, they ran the pawn shop until Richard passed away in 2018. Viewers appreciated seeing how gold and silver pawn shop operated on a regular basis. Additionally, it displayed the intriguing products that the customers brought into the store and the proprietors' evaluations of those items. At first, the store specialized on purchasing and selling silver and gold. Richard Harrison, the shop's founder, made it a household brand in the pawn industry with his decades of experience and no-nonsense approach. Fans of the reality TV show would like him for his frank demeanor and witty remarks. When Rich Harrison displayed his entrepreneurial abilities, it was the high point of both the company and the show. He learned the specifics of the pawn industry from his father and realized that it involved more than just transactions. It also focused on client testimonials, which supported some of the products that were brought. After making its debut on the History Channel in 2009, Pawn Stars rose to fame. Following his death in 2018, Rick Harrison left behind a legacy that was carried on by his 3 sons and 3 generations of stars. Pawn Stars, in contrast to conventional reality TV shows, concentrated on the intriguing objects in the store. From Civil War artifacts and historical coinage to celebrity memorabilia and vintage firearms, the objects were frequently accompanied by fascinating backstories that enthralled viewers. The popularity of the show was largely due to Rick Harrison's remarkable expertise in gold, silver, and collectibles. He was the series' intellectual fulcrum since he could elucidate the importance and worth of different objects. With his charm and humor, he could bargain with customers. The popularity of the play was also influenced by the other members of the cast. Rick's 3 boys occasionally made appearances on the show alongside Richard and Rick Harrison. One staple was Corey, while Jake and Adam were occasionally spotted as well. Millions of people watched the show, which swiftly became a cultural phenomenon and made the Harrison family well known. It combines family dynamics, instructional pieces about historical relics, and erratic customer interactions. The public's interest in the gold and silver pawn store increased due to the popularity of Pawn Stars. The show's success and popularity resulted in products, spin-offs, and worldwide recognition. Travelers from all over the world have been visiting the gold and silver pawn store to watch the reality stars and observe the pawn shop transactions. The Harrisons established themselves as cultural heroes by turning a small pawn shop into an empire through their economic savvy and charisma on TV. Adam Harrison, one of Rick Harrison's sons, has experienced a difficult existence. The terrible truth is revealed when Rick Harrison, at 59, confirms his son's life sentence. His kid had unexpectedly died, but it turned out that he had been incarcerated before to his death. A police report states that on Friday, officers in Vegas received a call about an unresponsive individual. That individual turned out to be Adam, Rick's son. Adam was declared dead by the responding officers when they got there. His narrative of the events of the previous few days was subsequently made public. Adam had been residing in a guest home on the property, the police were informed. After 3 months in prison, he had just been freed. The owner claimed that he offered him the guest house out of goodwill, but it was unclear what he had been imprisoned for. Adam's roommates, who had been residing there, were also questioned by the cops. Adam hadn't been in the main house for a while, they discovered. Additionally, he claimed to be under quarantine and sick anytime they sent him a message. However, the roommates attempted knocking on Adam Harrison's door for several days without getting a response. They finally gave the landlord a call. They discovered that he had died after opening the suit. Adam had just been on the farm for 2 weeks or so, and his conduct was odd and unpredictable. Adam had been incarcerated for months before to this. It was unexpected from the son of a reality television star. After being released from prison, he frequently confined himself to his small guest house and avoided socializing. Many of his housemates thought he had spent 3 months in prison on related charges, and they had also feared that he had been using when he was locking himself up. Adam, the son of Pawn Stars Rick Harrison, was reported to have lacked mental clarity and solid reasoning before to his death. He barricaded himself in the house and pushed furniture against the doors, among other concerning behaviors, according to a neighbor who resided in an RV near the main and guest houses and reported him to the authorities. She claimed that he frequently lacked mental clarity and logical reasoning in his interactions. She added that he caused himself 2 black eyes when he learned that someone had a boyfriend. He beat himself because she had stated that he didn't want to beat up the new boyfriend. Adam, Rick Harrison's son, passed away from a fentanyl overdose. He had been dead for weeks when he was discovered. He had previously used booze, fentanyl, and painkillers often and had a history of F***ing. Alongside his bed, the cops discovered 2 vials of a substance, a foil containing an unidentified tablet, lighters, and straws used for narcotic paraphernalia. Speaking about his son's passing, Rick disclosed the real cause of his son's demise was due to an overdose of fentanyl. And he attributed this to the border situation in America. "Yes, I can confirm Adam died from a fentanyl overdose," he posted on Twitter. "More attention needs to be paid to this nation's fentanyl problem. It appears that nothing is being done to stop it from just flowing across the boundaries. We have to perform better." On the Times, the Clark County Office of the Coroner Medical Examiner subsequently verified Adam Harrison's cause of death. Because of the toxicity of methamphetamine and fentanyl, the official cause of death was determined to be an accident. Was 39 years old at the time of his death? "You will always remain in my heart," he wrote in another post in which he lamented his son. "Adam, you are loved." His son was frequently seen on social media pages, despite the fact that he was hardly mentioned in the lengthy reality TV show. There have been other drug overdose deaths in the U.S. besides Adam Harrison's. For the first time, the number of overdose centers exceeded 112,000 in 2023 alone, demonstrating the destruction brought about by what appears to be a rerun of the crack cocaine crisis of the 1980s and the opioid pandemic of the early 2000s. The Drug Enforcement Agency states that fentanyl is a Schedule II banned narcotic that is around 100 times more powerful than morphine. Depending on the size of the individual, 2 milligrams of fentanyl, less than a grain of salt, can be fatal. Pawn Stars' original founder, Richard Harrison, died in 2018. For years later, their company was the subject of numerous court cases and familial betrayals. The death of Adam Harrison in 2024 then had a significant effect on Rick Harrison's life. Joan Harrison, Richard Harrison's wife and mother, filed a lawsuit against him in February 2022, claiming that he owned the gold and silver pawn store and other family property. The Nevada State Court received the lawsuit. Joanne said that while she was in a coma, her son Rick had made her sign away her 51% stake in the pawn shop. In addition, she claimed that her son had ceased to pay her from her portion of the company. According to her, Rick also denied her access to the family's trust and decreased her ownership of the company without getting her approval. Additionally, she said that Rick failed to disclose to her a $3 million loan that was backed by some of her assets. She requested an asset accounting, specific damages, and a court order prohibiting Rick from using her money throughout the legal struggle. In order to prevent Rick from selling the family's assets, she also asked for a temporary restraining order. Joanne said in her court documents that Rick had further eroded her trust by neglecting to furnish her with financial records for assets worth more than $500,000. She further asserted that Rick stopped paying her $225,000 a year in 2020, which she claimed she was due as a shareholder and as part of the family's heritage. Private frustrations became a public family fight as a result of the financial burden and the alleged hiding of information. Rick replied that his mother's choices were being influenced by someone. He claims that he has made numerous attempts in recent months to get in touch with his mother but has been unsuccessful. Rick's father's death exposed the flaws in their renowned pawn empire's well-polished exterior. The family faces treachery and acrimonious court battles after the patriarch's passing. The ownership and finances of the family business are a source of contention. Rick had denied all of these in public, but it still hurt Pawn Stars and his actions. The case brought to light the intricate relationship between family, celebrity, and business, which frequently results in issues when trust is broken. The legal disputes were a sharp contrast for viewers of the show, which for a long time had depicted the Harrisons as a close-knit family cooperating to maintain their company. Rick Harrison also encountered difficulties during the COVID-19 pandemic. Businesses everywhere faced difficulties as a result of the epidemic, and the gold and silver pawn shop was no exception. The show on the History Channel made it famous. It used to be a successful business that brought in over $1 million a year. In 2020, the store barely made $37,746 in sales. For the pawn shop, it was one of the most difficult times. Pawn Star's owner and star, Rick Harrison, talked candidly about the difficulties the store encountered during the pandemic. The pawn shop's clientele declined as fewer tourists traveled to Las Vegas, a city that depends significantly on tourism. Normally teeming with customers eager to explore its blend of pop culture and history, the store fell strangely still. The variety of unusual objects brought in for sale or pawn, which was a key component of the store's attraction on television, was also impacted by the absence of face-to-face contacts. The pawn shop had financial difficulties. During the pandemic, Rick observed a few surprising patterns. He saw a spike in the number of people looking to buy things in spite of the economic uncertainty. Harrison said, "People are spending a lot of money," citing government stimulus funds as one reason. Inflation and the flood of government aid produced a unique situation where individuals were both frugal and prepared to spend money on prized or collectible goods. The buyer who came into the store to offer a bag of human skulls was one of the more startling incidents. He turned down the sale despite the fact that this was a humorous topic that may be covered in a future episode of his show. These strange events were frequent during the epidemic, demonstrating the extent of the store's and people's suffering. He brought to the 2008 financial crisis when discussing the pandemic. His show eventually made its debut a year later. He presented the idea of porn stars to several investors over the course of 4 years, but the majority were skeptical of its viability. One even questioned whether anyone would be interested in watching 4 obese men in a pawn shop. Nevertheless, upon its debut, the program had tremendous development in comparison to other reality shows and garnered international attention. However, Rick Harrison is embroiled in more problems than just the deaths in the Harrison family and the dispute over the land. Austin Chumlee Russell is another significant character on the show, in addition to Rick Harrison and his sons. He has, however, been embroiled in numerous legal disputes, which has had a detrimental impact on the program and altered the audience's perception of him on TV. On television, he is humorous and eccentric, but in real life, he is always fighting and being raided by the police. He was taken into custody following a physical altercation in Hollywood in 2012. The incident's specifics were kept secret, and this was not that severe. However, it had already raised some questions over his conduct. His legal issues reached a completely new level by 2016. An inquiry following the charges led to a raid on his Las Vegas residence. Although there was no evidence of violence, the police did discover a large cache of marijuana and methamphetamine, unlicensed guns, and traces of cocaine. In addition to 1 felony weapon charge and 19 drug possession charges, he could face more charges. Chumlee made the decision to enter a plea agreement in order to avoid going to jail. He avoided jail time by entering a guilty plea to the firearms charge and a misdemeanor narcotics possession charge. He was still required to undergo obligatory treatment and probation. He expressed regret for his acts and issued a public apology. The reality program was still severely harmed by the scandal. And a lot of people watched to see how he would fare on the show. While some viewers opposed him because of past scandals, others backed him because they thought he had a sincere attitude. The producers of the show eventually declared that Chumlee would not be taken off. They gave him permission to go back to the series, where he concentrated on his pawn shop job and tried to repair his reputation. Even Rick Harrison's other son, Corey, who is frequently featured on the show, has his share of troubles in addition to Chumlee. Rick Harrison, who was 59 at the time, verified his son's life sentence and disclosed that an overdose was the cause of death. Apart from grieving for one of his boys, he appears to struggle to keep his other son out of trouble. Compared to Rick's other sons, Corey appears on the show more frequently. He just received a lot of bad press because of his public misbehavior. He has been involved in numerous scandals despite his keen business sense and charisma on film. And he has been in hot water on occasion for his conduct. One noteworthy instance occurred when Corey engaged in various disruptive actions during a motorbike tour. After being spotted urinating in public, he got into a fight at a bar and was kicked out of the place. He received a lot of bad press as a result of the episode, which raised questions about his public behavior. Another debate arose. While renting an RV, Corey became involved in a legal issue. The owner of the RV claims that Corey neglected to return it in a suitable state, which resulted in a lawsuit alleging damage in violation of contract. His personal behavior came under increased scrutiny as a result of this legal dispute. After his errors were made public, Corey later expressed regret for what he had done. Additionally, he expressed regret for his acts in public and said they had affected his reputation both personally and professionally. He claims that he is now working to advance. However, there is no denying that the instances led many people to distrust his conduct and professionalism. Corey continues to be a valuable member of the Pawn Stars ensemble and his father's helper despite the flaws in his record. Although some of his detractors continue to draw attention to his shortcomings, he is retaining his position on the show and putting these difficulties behind him. Following the passing of the original inventor, Richard Harrison, the Pawn Stars show was enmeshed in numerous scandals. After losing his son to fentanyl, Rick Harrison was involved in a court dispute with his own mother. In addition, Chumlee was detained on suspicion of possessing a weapon, and his other son, Corey, was implicated in other acts of wrongdoing. In addition to these, Johnny Jimenez Jr., another expert on the show, was jailed for domestic assault following a fight with his girlfriend. While they were fighting and both of them were intoxicated, he allegedly pulled his girlfriend to the ground. Nevertheless, with so many people watching the program, it resulted in a startling scandal. In May 2012, a crippled Vietnam veteran also sued Rick and his father, Richard. In the fall of 2011, the man said he was roughed up in their gold and silver pawn business by the father-son team. He accused them of assaulting him in a legal complaint. He said that they took him through the store while choking him, causing another scandal that caused the Pawn Stars show to lose its appeal. Olivia Black, who appeared on the show for just 13 episodes, was another cast member who ended up in a scandal. When old pictures of her hanging out with suicide girls went viral online, she was fired from the show. According to Pawn Stars rule, no one should have pornographic images of themselves on the internet. She still works at the shop, although she left the show. It was once a reality TV phenomenon and a successful family business. But internal conflicts, legal troubles, and scandals have damaged the gold-silver pawn shop's reputation. Rick's legacy may be overshadowed by the various obstacles his empire confronts. How do you feel about the scandals involving Rick Harrison? Please share your opinions in the comments section. We appreciate your time and hope to see you again soon.